Greetings, y'all. Guess what we're talking about today? So we're going to dive into my Van Halen and David Lee Roth collection again. Today we're just talking about their studio albums that I have on CD. I've done other videos about the studio albums on vinyl and on cassettes. I used to even have a couple of the original ones on 8-track, but I sold them off last summer when I was starting to purge stuff out of my collection. There's a lot to go through here between the original stuff, Dave's solo stuff, the Hagar CDs, and the Gary Sharon CDs. So let's just dive in and kind of whiz through these. 1978, we started off, of course, with Van Halen's debut, self-titled, or a lot of us refer to it as Van Halen 1. These are the 2000 remasters that were released. These are the original 6 records that I got coming up. I bought these originally on CD back in the 80s. So when they released these, I kind of picked these all up and gave my old CDs, the original ones, to my friend Gary. And of course, this was the big missed opportunity by Warner's. Maybe not so much their fault, probably more to do with the band, but you know, they could have put some bonus tracks on here, maybe some nice liner notes, but they really didn't do any of that. They remastered the records for sound. I'm not a big aficionado on those kinds of things, so I don't know that I popped this in and was like, holy moly, this sounds so much better. The only thing they really did was put the original artwork into the booklets and stuff, kind of make them match the original releases a little bit more. I do have, and I'll show these, I cut them up, but I do have from the original CDs I bought the long boxes that the CDs used to come in. Obviously, like I said, I cut these up, but I kept them. This was the Van Halen 1. You know, I used to go into the record store, and as a lot of you probably know, these were created partially to prevent theft, but also because the record stores had these bins that were designed for, you know, 12-inch records. And now when CDs started coming out, they were like, how the hell are we supposed to do this, you know? So the record company's solution was to make these long boxes so they could fit in the bins that the stores already had for their vinyl records. 1979 brings us the imaginatively titled Van Halen 2. I always wish they'd come up with like a proper title instead of Van Halen 2, but they were Led Zeppelin fans. That's probably partially why this got that title. Again, like I said, these are remasters. Warner's kind of put the original artwork back in that weren't in the original CD releases. And really quick, I'll show you the long box. This was the Van Halen 2 long box. This one has some notes here, essentially liner notes. A lot of the original Warner's CD releases, they would have these in the booklet or whatever, just kind of talking about the album and stuff. And for some reason, they put it on the long box as well. 1980, we get Women and Children First. My history of Van Halen. My brother had this on vinyl. I still have his copy of the vinyl. And this was kind of, this is folds out for the David Lee Roth poster that came with it. This is sort of like my really first memory of Van Halen. My brother called me into his room to say, hey, listen to this song, and he played me And the Cradle Will Rock. And he specifically pointed out, I remember him saying, like, listen to this, when Dave says, have you seen Junior's Graves? And again, there's more of these notes here. Again, like I said, these were on the original CD that had them on the booklet as well. 1981, we get Fair Warning, a CD or album that a lot of the hardcore Van Halen fans point out as one of their favorites. Even Wolfgang Van Halen really loves this record. And it's a good record. I mean, I remember picking this up on vinyl originally and hearing Mean Street. I don't think I knew any songs on this. I was just starting to become a fan, and I remember getting this, putting it on, and then instantly hear Mean Street right away and just mind blown, as they say. Here's the long box for Fair Warning. There's some more notes on the back there. I always loved the artwork on the album. I always wished I had like a poster of that stuff. If I could just get like a poster of the original, you know, artwork and just hang it up. I always thought, like, frame it and hang it. I thought that would be really cool. 1982's Diver Down. I love this record. Fans are it's kind of a polarizing record, I guess you would say. I think, if my memory is correct, Diver Down's sort of the first Van Halen record that I get. I got it on cassette from one of those record clubs, like cassettes for a penny. That was kind of the very first thing I bought by Van Halen. And this is the one thing on this one. I remember when these remasters were coming out and they said, oh, the artwork is going to be inside. And I always thought, oh, this was the one I was kind of curious about because it has this awesome collage that the band put together on the inner sleeve. And I thought, when I saw this, I was like, that's kind of lame. I thought it would have been cooler if it had like folded out so it'd almost be like the size of the original like 12-inch version of that, but they did not do that. And here is the long box for Diver Down. They chose to go with the picture of the band instead of the artwork. Kind of have the artwork on the back here. No liner notes. This is just info about CDs, aka compact digital discs. And of course, 1984. There we go. And they got the artwork in there. This book. This is when the anticipation for this record coming out. I originally bought it on vinyl, but I just couldn't wait. It was like a countdown till this record came out. I couldn't wait for it. That's when the fanaticism really began with me. And here's the original long box. I have some quotes by some of the members of the bands there, Dave and Ed specifically. Nothing from Michael or Alex. So be it. 1985, we get Dave's solo debut, Crazy from the Heat, the EP. Originally only on cassette and vinyl. This CD wasn't released until, I think, 92. That's when Warner's finally decided to put it out on CD. And that's when I picked it up. Inside there. Yeah, it's fun. It's cool. I mean, I like the two tracks on here that I like the most are the ones that weren't released as singles, Easy Street and Coconut Grove. I love Coconut Grove. I really think that was good. And it's funny because in that period in the 80s, the labels were releasing so many singles by all the bands that, I don't know, it's almost surprising that Warner's, the first two singles were pretty successful. It's a little surprising Warner's didn't release a third off of this, but they did not. And here we have the long box. This, like I said, was released in 92, so you're kind of getting near the end of the long box's existence. 1986, we get a bit of a change up. We've got 5150, new singer, Sammy Hagar joins the band. I'm not going to get all into that. Everybody's got their own opinion. But I like this record. I bought it on vinyl the day it came out. And I remember already having the 45 for Why Can't This Be Love, which I think had Get Up on the back. I liked it, it was a very successful record, and it's good. I mean, I know a lot of people complain about the sound of this and everything, but I think this is still my favorite Hagar Van Halen record. I mean, I just like the songs on here the most. Say what you want about the production or the drum sound or whatever. But I think this is still my favorite. Also from 1986, we get Dave's solo full-length album debut with his new band, Eat 'Em and Smile. Bought this the day it came out as well. Really liked it. Remember listening to this constantly that summer. That summer it was either this on the cassette player or 5150, or maybe one of my homemade best ofs. I have my ticket stubs from the concerts in the back there. But that's Eat 'Em and Smile, and here's the long box for that. 1988 brings us Skyscraper from David Lee Roth. Again, bought this the day it came out. I think the day it came out I bought the CD, the cassette, and the vinyl. Vinyl, I don't think. At that time I was more into CDs and cassettes in the car, obviously. I don't think I really listened to the vinyl much at all. In the back here again, I've got ticket stubs from concerts in the back here. And the long box for this, oops, that, and then just the tracks and another picture. Really cool. I remember seeing this image for the first time in a Billboard magazine. It didn't say David Lee Roth Skyscraper. It didn't say, it had no text on it whatsoever except like, you know, Warner Brothers copyright. And I just saw it and I was just like, whoa, it was like a 2-page fold out thing. Also from 1988, we've got Van Halen's second record with Hagar, OU812. And bought this originally, I think, on cassette. Don't have it on vinyl. Bought it on CD a few years later. I just pretty much just stuck with the cassette for a while. But I liked this record when it came out. Again, it's another record that people kind of complain. There's my ticket stub from the Monsters of Rock show. People complain about the sound of it again, you know. Like, people have been calling for this and 5150 to be remastered for ages now. But again, that's not a big thing for me. I think it sounds fine for me, and I like the songs. There's a handful of songs I could do without. I never need to hear When It's Love again, but I like the collection of songs they got in here. 1991, we get David Lee Roth, A Little Ain't Enough. And this is kind of where Dave's solo career starts to kind of falter a little bit. You know, this record came out and really wasn't that successful. I think it went gold, but compared to what he had done previously, I think that was a little bit of a disappointment. I know the tour was kind of scrapped that was supposed to support this, and then it started later in the summer, and it went from like his typical arena shows, and then now when he finally got around to playing the United States in the summer, here's my ticket stub, he's playing like outdoor sheds. So it seemed like his career was kind of on a downturn. It's a pretty good record, though. Here's the long box from it. Also from 1991, we get Van Halen's For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge. Remember picking this up the day it came out. It's a good record. I like it. It's not one I go back to all that often. There's a couple of songs on here that I like. They Got in Trouble. All these pictures inside. One of them was like of a chalkboard in the studio and it had a phone number on it. And I remember they got kind of in legal trouble over that because it was somebody's real phone number. And here is final long box, because after this, long boxes are no more. 1994, we get a very eclectic album from Dave called Your Filthy Little Mouth. I like this record. A lot of people don't. But he's kind of all over the place with different styles of music. Nile Rodgers producing, you know, who's more known for more like kind of dance or top 40 kind of stuff. Worked with Duran Duran and Madonna back in the day. But I like him trying different stuff, you know, it was kind of interesting. It's hit or miss, obviously, but it was kind of like an interesting thing to do. I mean, this is, you know, we're seeped in grunge music, so, you know, what does somebody like a David Lee Roth do? You know, he seems to have a pretty eclectic taste in music in general, so I think this record kind of showcases that a little bit. 1995, we get Van Halen's final studio album with Sammy Hagar, Balance. I wasn't crazy about this record. As a matter of fact, when it came out, the stuff I was hearing just, it sounded, I don't know, it sounded like a kind of a band that seemed a little bored or just needed like some new kind of inspiration or something. It's kind of like they were going through the motions a little bit. I didn't even buy this when it first came out. I probably picked it up like a year later or something like that. And still, I'm not crazy about it. There's a couple songs on here I like, but it just really sounds like the band. It's not a shock that they split after this, because it definitely something felt off with the band at this time. 1998, we get Van Halen 3, another imaginatively titled record. And I mean, you want to talk about balance, feeling a little, you know, worn out or whatever, but ooh boy, this record. I don't even really need to go into it. We all know the deal. I mean, it's just not that good. It needed somebody to come in and really just kind of help craft the tunes. Nothing really catchy about it. You know, you're used to Van Halen having these really catchy songs and melodies and stuff, and it just, on this, it's just nothing to be found. And I've, you know, every couple of years, it's like, let me give it another try, you know, and I just have a trouble getting through it. It just kind of dull and not really fun or anything, but what are you gonna do? Also from 1998, we get DLR Band, Dave's solo record. I get why he titled it DLR, but I just kind of thought that was stupid. It should have just kept with the David Lee Roth. There's a ticket stub back there, you know, and just gave it a title. I heard something recently on an interview on a podcast, a David Lee Roth podcast, the DLR Cast, which I actually was a guest on not too long ago. I'll put a link below if you want to listen to me blab on with the guys. Fun podcast. Steve and Darren, who host it, have some really good guests, including me. Hey, what? No. But there was a guy on there talking who had worked with Dave around this time and was saying how, like, Dave had actually, like, manufactured these in, like, his backyard. You know, like, this was released independently on his own label. And it kind of shows, because this artwork, it just looks kind of like homemade, so to say. It's just this like stock image of Betty Page and this like terrible American flag. Like, it's just really bad. I mean, for somebody like Dave, who's really kind of very artistic and everything, it just looks kind of cheap or whatever. I never liked that, but it's an okay record. There's a handful of songs on here I like. It sounds a lot like these are like demos. They don't even really sound well produced. Years and years and years go by. 2012 comes along, and we get the final studio album from the band. Dave is back, Michael is not, Wolfgang is on bass. We've got a different kind of truth. This is the deluxe edition that has the DVD on there with a couple of acoustic tracks. People whined constantly still to this day that it's like all old songs. Some of them are, but there's also other ones that are new, and you know, Van Halen did that quite a bit in their career. It's a heavier record. It was disappointing that they used the artwork from the Commodore's old record on the cover, but there's some cool stuff inside with Dave's drawings and stuff like that. But I like this record. I will say, look, I would never say anything ill will about Wolfgang Van Halen. He's the reason this exists. He's the reason the band existed the last couple of years that they were active. The one thing that you're really missing in these songs, and it's very noticeable, are Michael Anthony's background vocals. You know, there's a couple of tracks on here where you're like, man, what would that sound like if Michael Anthony had been singing on this record? You know, that's the one thing I could say. But I like this record. It's good. I liked it when it came out, and I think it's grown on me even more as the years have gone by. I think I like it a little bit more now than when I first heard it. Let me know what you think of this record. Not that we want to get into a big argument or fight in the comments section below, but it'd be curious to see if anybody's changed their mind on this record years later, you know, or even Van Halen 3. I mean, I would love to hear somebody say that album's actually better than they thought it was, or they liked it from day one. That is it for the studio CD collection of Van Halen and Dave albums that I have. Like I said, I'll put links below if you want to go back and watch the videos I did about the cassettes or the vinyl, because I talk a little bit more about them there. You know, I mean, after 3 videos talking about the same records essentially over and over again, I mean, what more can you say? But appreciate you watching. Thanks a lot. Definitely leave some comments below. Tell me your favorite records out of these and what have you. And we'll see you next time.